Hello friends, my name is Jess and welcome back to my channel, Books Past Bedtime. In today's video, we're going to be doing my second installment in my queer author's guide. Today we're going to be talking about Tavia Lark. Tavia Lark is primarily an MLM fantasy romance author, literally one of my favorites. All of her books can be found on KU, so they're very easily accessible. In the past 2 years, she's really become one of my top favorite authors of all time. I've now officially read every single thing she has ever released, so I figured it was the perfect time to do a guide video to her in case you've been hearing me talk about her and want to know what to read first, what to get into, and exactly what she is about. That's what we're going to do in today's video. Tavia's backlist pretty much consists of 3 trilogies, 2 of which are companion series, and 1 is a standalone trilogy. I think it's kind of connected. It's sort of set in the same fantasy world, but the characters are not connected in any way, unlike these other 2 series. Anyway, she also has a number of erotic shorts, if that's your thing, and those are quite fun, so we'll talk about those as well. The very first series that Tavia put out is the Radiance series. It is her first trilogy and it was published in 2021. Obviously consists of 3 different books. Book 1 is called The Necromancer's Light, Book 2 is called The Paladin's Shadow, and Book 3 is called The Sword Witch's Heart. All 3 of these books are full-length adult romantasy MLM romances. They are about 250 to 300 pages. They are relatively short, but I do think that they're all very well developed, very well written. The first book, The Necromancer's Light, this book follows Shay, who's a necromancer, and Shay is special because he needs human contact in order to survive. So you might guess where this is going. We need human contact, cuddling, touching to survive. The problem though is that since Shay is a necromancer, most people are very turned off by his existence. But then Shay meets Arthur. Shay's trying to go on this quest. I don't remember what it's about. And Arthur agrees to escort Shay north as public service, except the 2 never expect to be so drawn together and end up falling in love along the way, obviously, through mutual forced cuddling. I love the pitches for Tavia's book, so I am going to include those in this video because I do feel like it gives a good reference and encapsulation of what the book is about, and it's just a really good pitch to make you want to read the book. So the pitch for this book is a gay romance with a dangerous quest, her comfort, and so many excuses for sharing a bed. I really loved this book. I gave it a 4.5 star. I don't think it's the strongest of Tavia's books, but I did really enjoy it. I thought it was cute and I liked the characters. It can be a little bit slow in the world building sections, but once it gets going, it's really good. The next book in that series is called The Paladin's Shadow, and in this book we're following characters that we do meet in book 1. It follows Karis, who is a prodigy of the Radiant Order, which is kind of this cultish religion thing that is found in this world and this fantasy world that Tavia creates. And even though he's a prodigy of the Radiant Order, he is more of a prodigy than they even know, because he literally is hearing the voice of God in his head, and this voice of God is telling him to do very un-paladin-like things, which is kind of strange. Karis kind of decides to, follow it because it's God. On the other hand, we're also following Ronan. Now, Ronan has done more for the gods than any paladin ever has, according to him. A conspiracy means that he's a wanted criminal. So when he is captured by the Radiant Order, he has no qualms about taking Karis as a hostage, kidnapping him to cover up his escape. But Karis is a very complicated hostage and a very annoying hostage. But Ronan also falls in love with him. This book is pitched as a gay fantasy romance with enemies to lovers, hurt, comfort, and very inconvenient divine intervention. Which is true. There are some very funny moments with that. Tavia Lark does do a very good job of including good comedic relief in some of the scenes, and I do really appreciate that. I also think she does a great job of developing characters, dialogue, interactions, relationship building, chemistry, those kinds of things. Although this one is not my favorite. Honestly, might be one of my least favorite books of hers. I still give it 4 stars. I still loved it, but it is a little slow, and I don't think I totally loved Karis and Ronan as characters. I think Karis particularly was a little bit annoying, but it was interesting, especially to delve more into the cult-like elements of this high control religious group and kind of, see them be taken down. Now, the third book in this trilogy, The Sword Witch's Heart, literal perfection. I love this book so much. It's one of my favorites by Tavia Lark. So you cannot miss the Radiance trilogy because the third book is so good. It's so good. This book follows Leth. Let's look up how to say that. Leth. Is that right? No comments.
Leth.
Okay, thank you. All right. I guess it's Leth, like Seth, but with an L. Leth is kind of a part of this group. this like vigilante sort of group. It's kind of like found family vibes, try to right wrongs like Robin Hood style, sort of. Anyway, Leth, he's very desperate to prove himself to this group and also to find a purpose for his sword and magic, because he kind of joined this group and betrayed his family along the way because his family was like not that good. So Leth is really just like trying to prove himself, find a place for himself, basically. And he gets assigned to this new quest. But the problem with this new quest is that he is assigned a partner for this quest, and it's his least favorite person in the group, and that is Yvain. Yvain has something about him that's secret. He draws his magic power from human desire. He really has little patience for Leth, who is a frigid little sword witch who hates anything demonic, but somehow traveling with Leth makes Yvain feel stronger than he's ever felt before, if you know what I mean. This book is pitched as a gay fantasy romance with demons, hurt comfort, huddling for warmth, and a friendly carnivorous demon horse. The chemistry between Leth and Yvain just freaking leaps off the page, and I love some good pining, and these characters both pine the fuck for each other. It's amazing. It's so good. And I just love the like, will they, won't they, pretending they don't actually like each other, pretending they hate each other, and the banter that's involved in that, and oh, I loved it. Oh, it gives me like aggression because I loved it so much. It is so good. 5 stars. And this was kind of the first book that I feel like the like part in the pitch where it's like a friendly carnivorous demon horse. This was the first like animal companion in a Tavia Lark book, which becomes a theme throughout the rest of her stories and is honestly one of the best parts about her books. Like, she creates all of these like fantasy animals that can communicate with the humans in the books, and they are always so fucking funny. They are so good. They provide so much comedic relief. They are such like a breath of fresh air. Not that the book needs a breath of fresh air, it's really not the series, but they're just so fun and such a good like breaking up of tension, and like I love it. It's so fun. And this book, literally just amazing. And honestly, the ending made me cry. Like, what business does a smutty fantasy romance have making me cry? I don't know, but this one did. It was so good. Overall, this was a super solid trilogy. Obviously, the last book is my favorite. I am not crazy, so I do recommend reading the series like in order, as they are technically companions, so it's not required that you read them in order, but I do think you get the most out of it if you read them in order, because you miss like world building, you miss character references and cameos, you miss like understanding the magic system as well. Like, I think it's worth reading them in order, even though the first 2 aren't as good as the last one. Overall, it's such a good, solid, like average 4.5 star series. Like, that's a good series. You should read it. It's so good. Although, like, you can technically read them as a standalone if you want to. Fun fact, The Necromancer's Light actually was the first book that I read by Tavia Lark, but after that I did move on to the Perilous Courts series, which is the next series we're going to talk about. The Perilous Courts consists of 2 companion trilogies. The first 3 books follow the princes from one country and their romances, and the second 3 books follow the 3 princes of another country and their romances. So they're interconnected and basically like books 1 through 6, but they are kind of broken up into 2 sort of companion trilogies. Like I mentioned, books 1 through 3 follow the 3 princes of Solace, and books 4 through 6 follow the 3 princes of Drascora. They're best enjoyed in order, as you do meet various characters throughout the books and some plot elements do overlap. So I feel like these are even less standalones as the Radiance books are. You can technically read them all as standalones though, because each book does follow a different prince and is basically telling the story of their individual romance. Just read them in order, please. Please. Okay, book 1, Prince and Assassin. Prince and Assassin, which is the first book in all of the series, is the second book that I read by Tavia Lark, and really the one that just solidified that she's going to be a favorite author for me, because I fucking loved that book. So good. This book follows Whisper, who is an elite assassin. He is kind of under like this blood magic where he has to obey any assignments that he receives. Even when his job doesn't make sense, his newest job is to infiltrate the Palace of Solace, befriend Prince Julian, become a part of his court, and befriend him, and then wait for a signal to assassinate him. Now, Whisper doesn't usually do these long, involved jobs. He's called Whisper because he's light on his feet, no one sees him coming, he gets in, he gets out, he does the job. So this is like a very new thing for him. It's also very complicated, but it is supposed to be his last assignment, and then he's free, so he can't really like not take it. It becomes even more complicated though when he does fall in love with Prince Julian. This book is pitched as a high fantasy gay romance with secret identities, hurt comfort, and magic tigers with attitude. They're the magical animals again. They are called felcats, and they're like these magical tigers, and they do communicate with the humans, and they're so funny. I love them. They're so great. I did give this book 4.5 stars, even though I loved it so much. I really loved like Prince Julian and Whisper's characters. I thought the plot was so freaking exciting with like the assassin plot. And just all of the stakes that were hanging on everything that happened in this book were so high and so intense and so like page turning that I had to figure out what the heck was going on. So not only just had a good plot, great chemistry, like the relationship between Whisper and Julian was so hot. It has like a little kind of sprinkle, like a suggestion of BDSM, which I enjoy. So I really liked that too. But yeah, it was just so good. It was so good. The only reason I gave 4.5 stars, there's like a little tiny plot hole at the end that does like kind of bother me, but it really is not that big of a deal and not that integral to the rest of the plot. So it's really didn't really take away from my enjoyment so much, but I do want to mention it because it did annoy me. Book 2 is called Prince in Disguise. This book follows Rakos and Bellamy, and Rakos and Bellamy are like very much opposites. Rakos is like a big burly like dragon rider, and Bellamy actually spent most of his childhood sick, so he's like very small, kind of weak, kind of brainy, nerdy, like, you know, typical dynamic here. The one thing that they do have in common is that they're both hostages of a common enemy, and so they're kind of like kept together in this jail cell. They plan this escape, and when the two escape, they form unlikely companions as they like travel together away from their enemies and attempt to make their ways home. But they do discover that maybe they're complementary in more ways than one, and that they might be just what the other needs. This was very cute. I did really enjoy it. It's pitched as a high fantasy gay romance with secret identities, hurt comfort, and huddling for warmth. You'll probably notice a theme. There are a lot of similar tropes throughout Tavia Lark's books, so if these are tropes that you enjoy, you definitely will probably like her books, and I think that that's why I like them so much, is because I love a hurt comfort trope. I love the like relationship dynamics that Tavia builds. I enjoy any kind of like magical excuses for being close to each other, like bonding or like huddling for warmth, or like how Shay like needed to be touched to survive, keep his magic. I like all those things, so that's why I like Tavia so much, I guess. According to Goodreads, I did rate this one 6 stars. I don't know. I don't know if I really even liked it more like than Prince and Assassin looking back, but I guess I did at the time. The third book in this series is called Prince and Pawn. This book follows the final prince named Prince Audric. He is the oldest of the princes, so Bellamy is the youngest, Julian is the middle, and Audric is the oldest. And his romance is last. He has kind of resigned himself to arranged betrothal. He has seen both of his brothers fall in love, but he just knows it's not for him. Like, he has to marry for politics. He's the oldest son. But he does allow himself one last night of fun before his betrothal and his marriage and things kick off. And so he has an anonymous hookup in this pub with this man named Corinne. And despite their innate connection, Prince Audric really tries to put Corinne out of mind because this was only supposed to be a one-night thing. The problem is that the next day, when Prince Audric's betrothed shows up to the castle, Corinne's in the wedding party. He's his cousin. Actually, he's his illegitimate brother, which is even worse. Just kidding. This is pitched as a high fantasy gay romance with hurt comfort, forbidden, pining, inappropriate use of vines, and more magic tigers. I forgot about the inappropriate use of vines. That's amazing. It is, and it's so good. This was kind of a fun, like, subversion of the arranged marriage trope because there is an arranged marriage, but it's not to the people that are in the romance. So I really enjoyed it because of the forced proximity, the, like, forbidden nature of it. It was so good. I really, really liked Corinne as a character. Prince Audric wasn't, like, my favorite. I think Prince Julian definitely is my favorite of the like princes, but I did really like Prince Audric, and I really, really liked Corinne. And I thought this was a really cute story, and I gave it a 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. And the magic tigers, the felcats, have babies in this book, and it's so cute. Okay, book number 4. Spoiler alert, my favorite in the series. I fucking love this book. It's one of my favorite books of all time. Like, I do like this book more than The Sword Witch's Heart. Like, that is probably number 2, but this is number 1. This is one of the best books I've ever read by anyone, much less Tavia Lark. Like, one of the best books I've read by anyone. I love it. It has everything I love. And it was so good. So, Prince Bodyguard follows Vanna, who is okay. Rewind. This is where we switch to the princes of Drascora. We have finished the princes of Soleil. We're switching to the princes of Drascora. Vanna is the adopted heir to the Drascora throne, and so he doesn't really feel like he fits in with his family or his country. He misses like where he came from, but he just like kind of has to make the most of this bad situation. So Drascora is a really, really tough country in which a show of weakness is a death sentence, and Vanna is not the most like strong masculine person ever. The only person that Vanna can really depend on and be himself with is his magic bound bodyguard Daromir. Now Daromir and Vanna do have this kind of like blood bond to Daromir to protect Vanna, and the binding lets them share each other's pain, and Vanna depends on Daromir so much he can never risk their friendship, but he does crave more than Daromir's loyalty. Now Vanna has like always had a crush on Daromir, and their bond does start to evolve as more feelings come into play, which is so interesting and so fun. So this is pitched as a gay fantasy romance with pining heart comfort and codependent cuddling. I love this book so much. This is actually 6 stars. Like, this is a 6-star book for me. It is so good. The relationship between these two is literally so beautiful and precious. Just have such this solid friendship and trust built with one another, and it is so beautiful, like watching them pine for one another. And in Daromir's case, he's kind of oblivious, but I loved seeing their relationship grow. It was just so like intense and heartrending, but so sweet and beautiful at the same time. Some of the quotes in this book too are just literally insane and immaculate. Like, so good. I'm gonna read you some. Where do I go to see the fucking quotes? How are you finding Drascora, Daro? Daromir turns at a perfect angle for the enchanted lanterns to reflect distractingly off his chiseled jaw. Do you have to ask? You're here. That's all that matters. What? Look at me. I never want to look at anyone else. I feel like an idiot for not realizing sooner, but I think I've always loved you. Every part of you, every day, exactly as you are. Feel free to ask if you're enough. I'm happy to answer yes 1,000 times over. I love you completely. Vanna's smile is exactly why Daromir needs to brush up on his poetry. Fast. Because the way Vanna looks right now and the way Daromir feels, Daromir needs metaphors for this. Metaphors for this? Are you kidding me? Anyway, immaculate, amazing. Never been done before. The best book in the world. Book number 5 is Prince and Betrothed. This book follows Sai and Merrick Dyer, who is the like oldest of the Dresscoran princes, I believe. And Sai is a grail, meaning he can't access his own magical power. He needs to be like bonded to another mage, and then he can like augment their power. And so after a life without intimacy, Sai is really excited for his betrothal. This is an arranged marriage book, and is claiming he's really longing to finally feel useful and desired, but his betrothed Merrick Dyer refuses to use Sai as a grail. He sees it as morally unjust and morally wrong, no matter how much Sai wants to be used. This is pitched as a high fantasy gay romance with an arranged marriage, dragons, and shameless displays of affection. I did end up giving this one 4 stars. It probably is my least favorite in the series because honestly I wanted the bonding claiming thing to be a little more like kinky. I really thought it was underutilized. I understand like why Merrick thought that it was like not moral or whatever. I don't know. You know, like, this is a fantasy book. We can do whatever the fuck we want. That doesn't mean we want this to happen in real life, you know? Like, I kind of wanted it to go a little differently. I thought it was a little, you know, didn't live up to the potential of the summary. I did still like it. I did still enjoy it. I did still like Sai and Merrick as characters. They just, like, weren't my favorites, so that's why this one got 4 stars. And the last book in the series, book number 6, is Prince of Agony. This book follows Kezia Dyer, who is the youngest prince of Dresscora and the only, like, legitimate child of the Dresscoran king and queen, although he wasn't like deemed fit by them to be the heir, and that's why they named Vanna. But Kezia pays for his position as the only legitimate child and really someone that seems to have no responsibilities. He pays for this dearly because he is being abused all the time because his magic can only be accessed through pain, and his parents know this and they harness it. It's really fucking sad. Throughout these other books that we meet Kezia in, he seems like he's just like such a brat and such an awful person, and like to get this insight into why he's like literally just trying to protect himself and survive. So sad. My sweet baby Kezia. I just want to protect him. Basically, he's really trying to finally get out of this situation. He's trying to gain some power of his own and plot an escape. And so this prisoner, Lucian Bear, comes into the picture. Kezia convinces his parents to let him take control over the prisoner. And as the two spend more time together, Lucian begins to act more as a protector than a prisoner. But Kezia's cruel parents may still destroy them both. This is pitched as a high fantasy gay romance featuring captivity, hurt, comfort, and enemies hiding in a linen closet together. I really liked this one. I did give this one one 5 stars. The last book in the series definitely brought it back around. Cassie is like one of my favorite character archetypes. I love a character that seems like mean on the outside but is really just like broken and sad on the inside. I don't know why. That might say more about my psyche than anything else, but I love Cassie so much. I love seeing him survive and like get what was right for him. So I really like find a partner he deserved in Lucian too. I really loved their romance. I thought it was done really well. The captivity part is like a little odd at first, but it really is never like abused, and I think it develops very like naturally and realistically within the bounds of the worlds Tavia creates. But yeah, I was very satisfied by the story and very satisfied by the conclusion to the series, and so it definitely deserved its 5-star rating from me. I will say that although my favorite book, Prince and Bodyguard, I do kind of think Whisper and Julian are my favorite characters. They're the characters from the very first book, Prince and Assassin. We get to see them quite a bit throughout the rest of the series, and I always loved seeing them again. I loved seeing them again so much, and I felt like they were always true to their characteristics, and I don't know, I just loved Whisper and Julian. I love their dynamic, I love their chemistry, I really loved their story. And while I loved Doramere and Vanna in Prince and Bodyguard, I felt like I didn't need more from them. Like I felt like their story was very well contained and very well told in that book, whereas I feel like I could read about Whisper and Julian all the time. Does that make sense? Can you have separate favorite characters from your favorite book? That's how I feel. I really do think that this series though is Tavia Lark's magnum opus, and I really can't wait to see what she writes next. Alright, now we're moving on to Tavia Lark's short fiction. She has a number of erotic shorts. There are 4 separate mini-series: the Vampire Delivery series, the Raven Park Wolves series, Seasons of Seduction, and Sorcery and Submission. So let's go through those. A Vampire Delivery Service is probably my favorite, and it's a series of 3 shorts that all follow the same characters and the same relationship. We're following Alex Ward, and Alex is a broke college student, and he's so broke that he's decided he's going to sell his blood to a vampire delivery service. And so he gets this assignment where he is supposed to go and give blood to this vampire. And when he arrives for his first call, he really does expect to be nervous, but he doesn't expect his immediate overwhelming attraction to Leander Garrison. I feel like now that I'm explaining this, that this is like that stupid typical like corn trope where the pizza delivery guy but it's like for vampires. This series includes Never Been Bitten, Bitten with Benefits, and Bitten Steady. It's vampire BDSM shorts that end in HEA. I gave this 4 stars overall. I did particularly like it. I thought it was one of my favorites, and I think it's because each short follows the same characters, so it's basically a novella following this relationship and its conclusion in HEA. I really enjoyed that. I thought I like got even though it's like an erotic short, I got to spend enough time with the characters to actually like root for the relationships. I really liked it. I don't know, I like this one, it's good. The next series is the Raven Park Wolves series. This consists of 2 books, Werewolf Happy Hour and A Game of Cat and Mouse, and they basically follow 2 friends who meet 2 pack members and fall in love. In the first book, Werewolf Happy Hour, we're following Avery. Avery's looking for a good time after ending a bad relationship, and now that he's single, he can finally make a move on the cute bartender that's at his favorite bar. But Jack's not just the bartender at the Blue Moon, he is second in command of the local werewolf pack, and Avery just so happens to be Jack's fated mate. So this does have the fated mate trope. It's kind of like insta love, insta bonding sort of thing. I think Avery is human. I think his character, or his friend Cameron, is a shifter. I gave this one 3.5 stars. I thought it was hot. I thought it was good. It's like short and sweet, easy to read. Nothing really to complain about other than it just being fairly simple and short and not a lot going on other than sex. The second book in the series is A Game of Cat and Wolf, and this follows Avery's friend Cameron, who's a cat shifter. Cameron it takes place the same night as Werewolf Happy Hour, and Cameron also goes out to the bar with Avery. He doesn't really want to be there, but he wants to support his friend who's going through a hard time, and Cameron definitely isn't looking for love. He's a cat shifter. He's very happy with his like independent lifestyle. He doesn't really need anyone else like a cat. Wesley, on the other hand, is the alpha of the local werewolf pack, and he's at the bar that night. He's always dreamed of meeting his mate. He never expected, though, to find them sitting drunk and cranky on the sidewalk. He's overwhelmed by their immediate attraction, but Cameron is, you know, kind of shifty, and so will he run or let someone in for the first time? This one was cute. I didn't like it quite as much as Werewolf Happy Hour. I thought the dynamic between the two just wasn't as much my speed, so I did give this one 3 stars. I thought it was good, like I thought it was hot, but I didn't have many feelings about it, you know. The next series of shorts is called Seasons of Seduction. This series also includes 2 individual shorts, Winter Werewolf's Claim and Spring Fae's Embrace, obviously themed around seasons. These are still paranormal erotic shorts though. Winter Werewolf's Claim follows shy and awkward Ash, who used to be being overlooked and left behind, but he's really not expecting his friends to overlook and leave him behind, so much so that they do so in a blizzard while he has a sprained ankle. So he's really stuck in a bad position, but luckily he's rescued by a giant wolf who turns out to be a really hot, protective, possessive lumberjack of a man. I believe this is also kind of another fated mates story, and it's almost kind of Hades and Persephone-esque because during the winter, this wolf, his domain is this particular forest and he has to work there basically, so they can only see each other outside of winter, I guess, but I don't know. It was cute. I gave it 3 stars. I did think it was hot. I liked it. Again, most of these are like 24 pages, so I don't have a ton of thoughts. Next, Spring Fae's Embrace. This book follows Sage, and Sage doesn't mean to trespass, but his weekend nature hike accidentally leads him to the Fae King's magical forest, and instead of pursuing him, Aberon rewards Sage with a kiss that turns his heart upside down. The second time Sage trespasses is definitely on purpose, but when Sage breaks their deal, Aberon vanishes. Now Sage is willing to offer everything if Aberon is willing to take him. So basically, Sage encounters this fairy king, very attractive to him. They're very attracted to each other, but the Fae kind of deal in bargains, and Sage doesn't do well with this bargain, is determined to meet him again. So I gave this one 2.5 stars. I really didn't like this one as much. It was fine. And the final short erotic BDSM series is Sorcery and Submission. Like Vampire Delivery Service, this one does follow the same set of characters throughout. Guess has an HEA? I don't know. Basically, we're following Ellis, and Ellis lives a lonely and miserable life as like a servant, the Warlock's tower. But everything changes when Lord Bryaron summons Ellis for a session of sorcery, spanking, and submission beyond his wildest dreams. And he quickly becomes Lord Bryaron's favorite pet. I do know that this kind of thing is a lot of people's thing, but it's not my thing. I genuinely like really smutty BDSM scenes, but I really like the characters to be in love with one another. I don't know, like I like the lovey-dovey things surrounding a scene, like more than I actually like the scene itself, if that makes sense, I guess. I don't know. This isn't a romance, which is why I didn't like it. I like a romance that has BDSM elements, not BDSM erotica without romance. That makes sense. I think that's reasonable. Anyway, Sorcery and Submission is a series that does include 3 separate shorts, but they do follow Ellis and Lord Bryaron throughout, as you know, it's just different scenes with them, basically. The first one is the Warlock's Command. Second is the Warlock's Plaything. Third is the Warlock's Summons. I gave this series as a whole 2 stars. It's probably my least favorite of all these erotic shorts. Like I said, it's just not a romance. It's simply BDSM, which is not really my cup of tea. It's also fairly dark for my tastes. And I don't really like dark romance very much. And this was more along the lines of dark romance. You know, just not my thing. So those are all the erotic shorts. I don't think they're must-reads. I think the only reason you would really read them is if like there's a trope that particularly appeals to you, if you want something like short and smutty, if you want something like paranormal, short and smutty, or you're like a true Tavia Lark fanatic or a completionist like me. I think most of them can be skipped, although if you are in the mood for something short and spicy, I do think that Vampire Delivery Service is the one I would most recommend. I do think that one is really good and like worth reading. And now we have to talk about Tavia Lark's most recent release. This book is called Bound to the Wild Fae, and it is book number 3 in the Fortune Favors the Fae multi-author KU series of standalones that are all like set in a similar world, like following a similar theme. If you read a lot of KU, I'm sure you've seen these like multi-author series before. They're fairly popular on KU. So in this book, we're following Folly. Folly is a fortune teller. This is only by trade because he's actually a nervous wreck and a total fraud. Folly really does not see the future, but he does have this golden eye that makes people nervous, that makes people like think that he has some kind of magic to him. And it's true because his golden eye actually allows him to see between the realms. He can see the fae that lurk in the shadows. Like he can see the paranormal world where most humans cannot. Yarrow, the love interest, is a wild fae, and he's on a quest to slay this monster and earn his place in the summer court. But the monster, for some reason, is in Folly's circus thing. I don't really remember why. But anyway, him and Yarrow are like in this fight, and the monster throws this curse that ends up binding Folly and Yarrow together. I love a bonding curse. I love a bonding curse. I think this probably comes from me reading dreary fanfic. All the time. I love a bonding trope. This really complicates Yarrow's mission because the two can't leave each other's proximity without agonizing pain. Folly really is desperate to return home, but in order to break the curse, he has to follow Yarrow into the world he spent his life hiding from, and Yarrow's familiar homeland seems far deadlier when he has a tiny, fascinating human to protect. I gave this one 4 stars. It did seem to be more of like a fun romp than Tavia's usual books. It almost felt like it was written a little faster, edited a little less, like just more for fun, which I can appreciate, and I did think it was fun. She always includes tropes that I love, but it really wasn't quite at the level of her other books in my opinion. I still like had so much fun with it, found it very enjoyable, enjoyed the themes and the tropes like I mentioned, and I really enjoyed the characters. I thought Folly was really cute. I really liked Yarrow. I enjoyed it. It was good. Alright, those are all of Tavia Lark's books. And like I said, she's one of my favorite authors, and I really think she is one of the best queer romantasy authors on KU. I love all of her books. So good, and she puts out stuff all the time, so there's always something new to read. I really think that her books are unmissable, particularly her like full-length series, Radiance and Perilous Courts. As for like how to read these books, I would probably recommend starting with the series that most appeals to you. I do think though that the best bet for most people would be to start with Prince and Assassin, as the Perilous Court series I think like holds the widest, broadest appeal and has the best reviews. I would recommend reading the Perilous Court series in order from there, and once you've read the entire Perilous Court series and have decided if Tavia Lark is the author for you, then you can go back and read the Radiance trilogy. Although please don't forget Radiance, because like I said, book number 3 in that series is one of my favorites. I really like it. It's so good. Alright, let me know down in the comments if you have read Tavia Lark before, especially if you've read her because of me. I would love to know that. Or if this video has inspired you to pick up any of her books, let me know which one. And also come back and let me know your thoughts if you do read one inspired by this video. I think that's all from me today. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. If you are interested in reading any of these books, they will be linked down below. Every single one is available on KU, I believe. Definitely take advantage of that. I also have like a KU subscription link thing down there if you want to get like your first month free maybe through that link. I don't remember exactly what it is. You can do that. Any link you click in the description will support my channel, so you can also follow me on all social media down there. I have some affiliate links, those kind of things. No pressure, but whatever's interesting to you. If this is your first time here, or if you are returning but not already, I would appreciate you subscribing to my channel. It really helps me out. I post videos about queer books all the time, so I would love to have you stick around if that's something that would interest you. Also like this video if you liked it, leave a comment. Yeah, I think that's everything I have to say. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.